Hi, my name is Mark Lacuter. I am a MBA student at Cape Breton University, and for my international business project, I chose to look at gold mining in Russia. Throughout the presentation, I will be looking at a brief overview of Russia, history and landscape of Russia. We'll look at the political and legal environment there, economy, and look at trade within Russia, and also gold mining, the Canadian connection, and also reasons for doing business in Russia. Russia is the largest country in the world. Its total area is 17,075,400 square kilometers. From northwest to southeast, Russia shares borders with Norway, Finland, Estonia, Latvia, Lithuania, and Poland, Belarus, Ukraine, Georgia, Azerbaijan, Kazakhstan, China, Mongolia, and North Korea. Russia is also the world's ninth most populous nation with 143 million people as of the year 2012. Extending across the whole of northern Asia, Russia spans 9 time zones and incorporates a wide range of environments and landforms. Russia has the world's largest reserves of minerals and energy resources and is the largest producer of oil and natural gas globally. Its lakes contain approximately 1/4 of the world's liquid fresh water, 20% in Lake Balkai alone. The history of the Russian Federation officially began in January 1992. The Russian Federation was recognized as a legal successor to the Soviet Union on the international stage. Unfortunately, Russia had lost the superpower status and faced serious obstacles in an effort to rebuild a new post-Soviet political and economic system. Dismantling the socialist central planning and state ownership of property of the Soviet era, Russia moved to rebuild an economy based on market capitalism. Even in Russia today, there are many similarities of political culture and social structure from its Soviet past. Although Russia has some very challenging years, it is now well ahead of most other resource-rich countries in the areas of economic development, education, science, and industry. It has an abundance of natural resources, a well-educated population, and a developing industrial sector. The population of Russia as of October 2012 was approximately 143.3 million people. For many years, the population numbers have showed a steady decrease. This was due to decrease in birth rates and increase in death rates. Research also points to poor health care, alcoholism, and poverty as key indicators. In recent years, Russia has experienced a spike in population growth. In the first 11 months of 2012, Russia's population has increased by 276,000 people. This may seem like a large number, but when compared to the total population, is quite insignificant. This small population growth has been a key factor in economic forecasts that predicts growth much slower over the decades for Russia when compared to China and Brazil. Life expectancy at birth for males is quite low at 62 years and at 74 years for females. The working population is approximately 75.5 million people. The mining sector employs approximately 1.6% of this workforce. Ethnic Russians comprise 81% of the country's total population. There are also 160 other ethnic groups and indigenous people living within Russia. Russia's large variety of ethnic groups speak over 100 languages, although Russian is the official state language and the most widely used in Eurasia. The most densely populated areas are European Russia, near the Ural Mountains, and southwest Siberia. Approximately 75% of the population resides in urban areas, while 25% reside in the rural regions. Total population estimates show an estimate of 142.8 million people. The population showed a steady decline starting in the mid-1990s and has never fully recovered. The slow growth recently has been attributed to socioeconomic conditions within the country. Immigration rates have also been noted as a contributing factor in much of the literature. The political system in Russia is much different than in the Western nations. It is considered a federal presidential republic. The political power is supposed to be controlled by the president and prime minister. There is a legislature of the Federal Assembly of Russia that has a lower and upper federation council. Judicial power is structurally administered by the Minister of Justice. The state controls education, healthcare, law enforcement, and transportation. The fact remains that the president is all-powerful and can override any political, legal, or economic decision in the republic. Herein lays one of the major issues of doing business in Russia. The The president is all-powerful and can manipulate many systems at his own discretion. He can also dissolve any federal laws and can call referendums at will. This type of power can be seen as negative and risky by foreign companies and investors. Russia's economy is the ninth largest in the world by nominal value and the sixth largest by purchasing power parity. It is currently considered by the IMF and the World Bank a developing economy. Russia is very rich in natural resources and has abundance of fossil fuels and precious metals. Russia holds the largest natural gas reserves, the second largest coal reserves, and the eighth largest oil reserves in the world. These resources are a huge contribution to the Russian economy and account for approximately 80% of exports. Russia's main imports include machinery, transportation equipment, plastics, metal, and consumer goods. The Central Bank of Russia reported that Russia had a trade surplus of 1.87 billion US dollars as of January 2013. The European Union is the largest trading partner of Russia, accounting for almost 50% of overall trade. European Union members also contribute 75% of foreign direct investment in Russia. It is very interesting to note that Russia is the only large economy that has only recently become a member of the World Trade Organization. Russia did not meet judiciary regulations prior to this. In reviewing the Russian economy, we see there are three major issues with dealing with the Russian economy. The first is improving governance, the second will be foreign direct investment issues, and the third will be poor infrastructure. And next we will look at a short video to review these three items.
Well, one man who knows firsthand about doing business in Russia is William Browder. He's the CEO of Hermitage Capital Management, once one of the largest foreign investors in that country. In 2005, though, he was banned from Russia over allegations of tax evasion. Browder says his company was targeted by criminals trying to seize his assets. Well, earlier I spoke to William Browder and asked him if he was pleased to see Russia called to account in a court outside its own borders.
I am, and I am because what we've experienced in Russia, what we've seen in Russia over the last few years, is a complete deterioration of the rule of law. Essentially, you cannot get justice in Russia. And so it's very important for investors, but also for the Russian state to understand that laws do exist, even if they don't exist in their own country. And so by the government being forced to lay out their case in an objective and uninfluenceable court in Strasbourg, I think is a very important development and something which I think has positive implications for investors.
A few years ago, when Mr. Khodorkovsky, the former owner of Yukos, was on trial, obviously he's now in prison, you and I spoke in Moscow. You were actually quite critical of Yukos because you said that they had bought courts. But more broadly, since then, you've been essentially forced out of Russia. Even your lawyers have been beaten up, and your business has suffered attempts, in a sense, to steal its corporate identity. You've talked about this being a criminal state in which to do business, but are things getting better or worse in Russia now?
Things are getting dramatically worse in Russia right now. I mean, just to put it in a very simple terms, I was kicked out of Russia. My offices and my lawyers' offices were raided. They took away our documents. The police then stole our companies, and then after that, the companies were used to steal $230 million of taxes that we paid to the Russian government. Our lawyers protested. They arrested our lawyers, and our lawyer, Sergei Magnitsky, stuck him in jail, and he died on November 16th. I can't imagine that there's anything you can do to describe that other than terrible.
Well, you are vocal, of course. Other people are less vocal, and they've made money in Russia. Do you see it as an absolutely terrible place to do business or to invest under any circumstances, or do you accept that those who toe the Russian government line can actually get quite a lot of money out of the Russian markets?
Well, let's look at some of the other examples. You had BP that's been shaken down on a number of occasions. Just a week and a half ago was the most recent incident. You had Shell that lost half of their Sakhalin Island business. You had IKEA, which has had a huge, horrible situation with corruption. You've had Telenor. You've had News Corp. I could go on and on and on. I think that there's not that many people that are going to come onto your program and talk the way I'm talking, but everybody has had the same experience. Sure, you can make some money in Russia. We made a lot of money in Russia before they kicked me out and killed my lawyer. But it's a question of, is that worth it? And I would say that the situation has gotten so out of control out there until that they actually can get a rule of law in place and start to control this corruption. It's not a place for investment.
And next we see a chart of Russia's economic indicators as of 2010 and 2011. Again, we see the purchasing power parity is $20,560. Population, we've already covered that. GDP, $1.8 billion. Percent of GDP increase is 4.3% in 2011. Life expectancy at birth, again, is 16.8 when considering males and females. And we're looking at an inflation rate in 2011 of 6.11. Russia is very rich in natural resources, and its gold mining is believed to be one of the largest and most profitable industry markets in the world. Russia is one of the top gold producers in the world and contains the largest unexplored gold mining regions. The industry has been revitalized since the end of the Soviet regime. During this period, the government held monopoly on gold mining and the sector had remained undeveloped. In the early 1990s, the Russian government began deregulation of the sector. Unfortunately, at this time, market prices were low and the gold mining industry became stagnant. In recent years, Russia's gold sector exploded, sparked by Western investment and the steady increase in gold pricing. Russia's Gold Industrials Union is forecasting gold production to increase 20% to 7.9 million ounces by 2015. The two leading companies in Russia gold production are Paulus Gold International and Kinross Gold. Paulus Gold is the largest gold mining operation in Russia and also in the top 10 gold mines worldwide in ounces produced. Production volume for the company topped 1.26 million ounces in 2012. The company owns the third largest gold reserves in the world and is leading the industry in production and growth. Their primary mines are located in East Siberia and the Far East. They are presently operating 5 mines in Russia and have numerous projects for new development. The company appears to have a vested interest in health, safety, and environmental issues involved in mining and follows best industry practice. The second largest gold mining operation in Russia is a Canadian-based company, Kinross Gold. The company operates mines worldwide and has a large stake in the Russian gold mining industry. Kinross has been involved in several recent mergers and owns 9 active gold mines around the world. Kinross's gold mine production as of 2012 was 2.6 million ounces, 694,000 of those coming from Russia. The company appears to value health, safety, and the environment. Kinross has achieved an A ranking in Maclean's Magazine annual assessment of social responsible companies. Both Kinross and Paulus have large development projects underway in Russia that will be the main contributor to increasing gold production in the country. Directors from both companies are shocked that many mining companies refuse to move into Russia. There's still a very strong preconceived notion that Russia is a risky country in which to do business. Kinross is capitalizing on the lack of major competitors in Russia mining sector, and they're also small, $600 small. There are many barriers to doing business in Russia. They include high cost of credit, high tax rates, licensing, and government corruption. The permitting process needs to be even more problematic than the above issues. A company must first bid for exploration rights and renew the license every 2 years. A company must have exploration permit before it even applies for a mining license. The exploration permit does not guarantee the company will be given a mining permit. Uncertainty and lack of regulations, this needs to improve. Again, Russia seems to be unable to shake the reputation of being a risky country in which to invest. Russia is a strong and expanding economic powerhouse. Canada has been playing a significant role in developing the gold mining industry in Russia and will continue to do so in the future. I believe that Russia contains one of the most lucrative opportunities in the global mining sector. East Siberia and the Far East regions remain to be relatively unexplored, and there is definitely a huge mining potential in these regions. There is no doubt that Russia remains to be a challenging country in which to do business, but there seems to be a slow but steady improvement in barriers. Russia seems, for the most part, to be law-abiding citizens and have a well-educated, cheap labor pool. There appears to be a great deal of community support for mining operations because of employment opportunities in the rural areas. One big advantage to mining companies is limited activity by NGOs and environmental protesters. Environmental laws are weak and this needs to be improved, so mining companies will conduct mining in an ethical manner.